Our next speaker is Alif Ahmed. Alif is a PhD candidate in social work intervention at New York University and a research associate with NYU's Global Ties for Children. His work focuses on how structurally vulnerable workers, especially immigrant gig workers, are excluded from protections in the digital economy and how they organize mutual aid and solidarity when formal systems fail. Using mixed methods, including interviews, mapping, and quantitative analysis, he studies both harm and resistance in the gig economy. Alongside his academic work, Alif is a licensed clinical social worker and founder of social justice-oriented mental health and evaluation initiatives that serve immigrant communities. But his research questions began long before graduate school on a bike in Brooklyn, where delivering food as a teenager taught him what it meant to be essential, invisible, and dependent on community to survive. Please welcome Alif Ahmed for his talk, The New Working Class, Laboring Without Benefits in a Digital World.
Okay. Well, that was a great intro. Did not expect that. So think about a rainy day. You are at home, it's an evening, you had a hard day of work, you come home, and you decide to order food. You go on your Uber Eats or Seamless. The food comes to your door. You pick up the food, you go home, you're cozy, you're petting your cat or dog. But you forgot to think about the person that just delivered the food. Who are they? And how come we forget about them? That's the folks I'm going to talk about today. So digitization has changed a lot of things. Back in the day, if you think about New York City, right? At 6 a.m., the workers that used to go clean the city, we forgot about them. We only talked about the Wall Street people who really made the money. It's kind of like that, except in digitization, we tend to forget who the human is. We tend to forget, we appreciate the AI, the algorithms, but we forget that the human is the one that feeds into the algorithm. There is no AI without human knowledge. That's what people forget. So the theoretical orientation to all of this is that these algorithms are created by us. So if we don't focus on the people, there are no algorithms. If anything, it's going to fail. So what do I mean by this? It started with me being undocumented as a child in this country. And we did any work we got, like any kind of hustle. Use the word hustle, right? We got to hustle. So whether it's like taking care of a shop, whether it's someone's opening up a new pharmacy, stacking up the shelves. And at that time, we couldn't just order labor through apps. We had to go make connections and get it done. And what I learned is sometimes people used to forget that, but the few people who appreciated me, they really changed my life. And maybe I impacted their lives. So I think the social capital, I could use all the scientific rigor, the communication really matters. And I'll get to that. So what do I mean by misclassification? The word misclassification is, think about the barista, think about all the odd jobs you had to do. Tax season is coming. Did you get a W-2? No. You probably got a 1099 or some kind of cash. I'm talking about that 1099. So when we talk about algorithms, these Uber Eats apps, they cut you off before you do that certain amount of hours, that threshold, where you could get those benefits. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's not a boss who's saying, hey, you don't get the next shift. It's actually an algorithm telling you, you're not going to get the next work. It cuts you off from accessing something like worker protection, which is like, if you're sick, you're injured, you get some kind of money, right? We're talking about health insurance. We're talking about all these protections that we take for granted. We might not have that. So I'm not really talking about food delivery workers. I am, because it's an easy example. But we're also talking about the baristas. We're talking about a new actor, a comedian that's trying to come up. They don't have those protections. There's no Actors Guild for food delivery workers that gives them health insurance. So we have to build that a bit. And why do we care about them? Obviously, I could talk about race, immigration status, all that, and that's very clear. They look like me. Let's go to some personal narrative, right? The qualitative side. We talked so much about numbers. So oftentimes, I speak 5 languages, and I'm a therapist. So I get hit with all these Medicaid clients that are food delivery workers. Their parents are injured or something happens, and they're suffering. There's no protection. It's not really mental health work that I'm doing. I'm trying to connect them to resources. Why am I the one doing that? Why aren't there systems in place? And why does it really matter? Because think about someone using the ER without health insurance. How much does it cost? How much does an ambulance cost? What if they did have New York State Medicaid emergency health insurance? How much does that cost? They have to pay their taxes because otherwise they won't get certain accesses, including sending their kids to college. FAFSA, your parents have to file it, if you think about it. It's really important to understand that these people are humans that need protections, and there's nothing in place right now, as we're getting divorced from that. However, we're not afraid of that. What I mean by that, I could talk about all the suffering. I'm an immigrant, I'm a Muslim-born brown man. What about my strengths? How many people want to focus on my strengths, right? There's a lot of strengths in the community. We know how to overcome these things, whether it's a masjid, whether it's a temple, or whether it's just me playing basketball, or we all come together and we share resources. What I mean by that, picture an undocumented mother the husband's playing volleyball, the boys gathered, right? And they're like, oh, I went to Bellevue Hospital yesterday, and they said I'm eligible for CHIP. How many of you know CHIP? Show of hands. All right, so I won't explain it then. But CHIP allows them, because she's an undocumented mother, hypothetically, let's take undocumented, she still has access. That exchange of information, what if we are able to track it through science? What is science? Everyone told me science should be replicable, right? What if we can replicate this with this digital world, right? That's what I'm trying to do. It's qualitative, it's quantitative, I can go into all of that. So what do I mean by digital infrastructure of care? Agency is if someone has to go for this gig work that pays a lot, they could be like, hey, can you take care of my child? If someone falls sick, okay, I'm gonna show up for this person. So agencies, they know that they have agency within the larger system, not within themselves. Because the community cannot survive within itself, because they're already unprotected. They have to build, the individualization becomes larger. It becomes a mesosystem. So they look out for each other because they don't have access to childcare, right? We have to create this pseudo childcare system. We have to create this pseudo system that talks about access to New York State emergency Medicaid rather than the federal Medicaid system. So, for example, like in New York State, your boss has to just give you a letter and even if they pay you in cash, they just tell you how they pay you. And you could actually get New York State Medicaid. It's accessible. You could go to any public hospital and use it. And it's not a burden, because you also have to show that you're paying taxes, because that's also something they like to see. Because instead of social, what you need is a IT. So invisibility does not mean silence. What do I mean by that? Think about WhatsApp groups. Think about Facebook groups. Think about all this, the playgrounds I was talking about. So their advocacy is happening. So they're like, all right, we're going to meet up at 7 p.m. on the WhatsApp group. And they all go out and they do certain activism that they work together. Protection in numbers, if you think about it, right? Who's the one that's going to get arrested? The one that has papers, maybe because we can bail them out. But organizing is happening. It has happened with me. It is happening in our community. And I don't want everyone to think of it as a deficit. We're talking about strengths now. So the strength is there. And they're not silent. They're just not loud. If I have an undocumented friend, I don't want him to go to in the middle of the park with a megaphone screaming at ICE agents. I would rather do that, and I would let them make the flyers or something. So these kind of things are happening. Solidarity. Collaborative actions that are being played out. So the digitized gig economy didn't erase worker solidarity, it reinvented it. It reinvented in a way that we're communicating in different ways. It's encrypted, it's different, it's novel, but not many scientists or people have documented it. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. It's a tough one, but why not? Let's try it. And I'm not the only one. It's happening in Peru, it's happening in Greece, it's happening in China. Think about even when these apps came, COVID, we're talking about COVID. It's very recent, actually. So if we can break this down and actually operationalize it to some way, we're talking about collective action operationalized at the intersections of racial identity, immigration status, and many other things. We can pass it on for like more disruption in the future, and how to make policies happen, right? So I'm going to end it on a note that the personal is political, because if we can create this blueprint that can be replicated, no matter how many people you try to deport or arrest or anything, we can make policies pass that are sustainable. And whether it's quantitative, qualitative storytelling, I mean, make a rhythm, make a song out of it. I mean, make a march out of it. But that's what I'm trying to capture through my science.